In this movie, we're going to be talking about jQuery Mobile's navigation model. Now, there are several pieces to this, so let's go ahead and get started at the first one. Let's talk about the parts of a URL. Now, a URL is something like this: video.google.co.uk:80/videoplay, etc., etc., etc. So just to run over the parts of the URL, we have the protocol, that is HTTP, and that's how the computer will communicate with the web server. The hostname is video.google.co.uk, and you can split that up into subpieces. We also have :80 in this URL. Now, you don't see :80 very often. However, when we open up localhost, we do type in :8888. That's the port that the computer is going to be using to contact the web server. We don't see port 80 specified very often because it can be assumed that you're going to be using port 80 if you don't specify it explicitly. After that, we have the path, in this case it's /videoplay, and then we have a question mark which indicates that all the stuff that's coming after are URL parameters. In this case, we have two URL parameters, docid equals negative whatever that large number is, and HL equals EN. Now, these can be useful in passing information between pages or from the server to the client. But we're not too concerned about URL parameters right now. What we're really interested in is this hashtag at the end. So you see the #00H02M30S, right? That is the hashtag that's part of this URL. Now, you can actually use this hashtag for a number of different purposes. jQuery Mobile uses it to track what page you're on. Now, just for clarity, I want to point out that the hashtag, as I call it, can also be called a URL fragment, or it can be called a named anchor. It really just depends on who you're talking to about URLs, because people tend to be split fairly right down the middle in talking about URL fragments or named anchors or hashtags. The point is they're all the same thing. Now let's take a look at a real-life example, twitter.com. Now, Twitter.com a little while ago went through a very large site refresh in which they moved away from the idea of every profile being a specific page. And instead, they started loading in profiles using Ajax. And the way they track what page they're on is using the URL fragment out here, the hashtag. So you can see pound, and then they have !/Twitter. Now, the !/ is purely aesthetic. Hashtags work just fine like that, without the ! and the slash. However, Twitter uses them just to make a nice pretty URL. Now, if we replace Twitter with Google to go to Google's profile, what actually happens is you may have noticed this header didn't disappear because of a page refresh. It actually just loaded in the new profile using Ajax. And that's because Twitter.com has some JavaScript, and that JavaScript is watching this hash. And whenever the hash changes, it parses out the hash and it decides what to do. On some fundamental level, that's also how jQuery Mobile uses hashtags. So let's close out of this and let's take a look at our multi-page template in our working files directory. So we'll open this guy up and you'll notice we have a couple links here. If I click on Show Page 2, watch what happens up here in the location bar. Notice it changes to #2. We'll click back to page 1. Show Page 3, same thing, #3, back to page 1. And if we inspect element on this guy, we can see that the anchor tag actually links to #2. Now, we don't have to do anything special to make this work. We just have to make the link. We talk more about that in our unit on linking pages. Now, one other thing that I want to point out is we have these different pages. You can see div data role equals page, div data role equals page, div data role equals page. And you'll notice that they all have certain classes in common. jQuery Mobile has added a class of UI page to all of these. They also have UI body C, UI body A, UI body C. So they all have certain classes in common. You will, however, notice that this is the only one that has UI page active. UI page active is a class that jQuery Mobile will give to any page that's currently active, hence its name. That means that when you click on Show Page To, it'll take away the UI page active class from this page, and it'll put it on this page or that page or whichever page you happen to click on. Now, jQuery Mobile is a very robust framework, and it actually gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you use the navigation model. As they release different versions and updated versions of jQuery Mobile, that will change, and you can find the latest up-to-date information about that on their documentation website page. So that concludes this lesson on the jQuery Mobile navigation model.